At 6:47 a.m. on April 23, 2025, as the first light of dawn stretches over the uneasy waters between Taiwan and mainland China, the USS William P. Lawrence, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, powers up her automatic identification system. In this part of the world, switching on that signal is a bold move, something akin to walking into the roughest part of town with your ID badge dangling for all to see. It's not just a formality, it's a message, both of transparency and challenge. The captain, a veteran of countless patrols and crisis moments, glances at the bridge's screens, aware that some 53 miles to the west, inside a vast Chinese military airfield, someone has already noticed. A radar specialist, trained to spot American movements, reaches for the phone and begins the chain reaction that will turn a quiet morning into a spectacle of modern military brinkmanship. Suddenly, a harsh scramble siren shatters the early calm at the Chinese airbase. It echoes through the concrete halls and onto the tarmac, where two J-16 pilots are halfway through their morning tea. Today is Chinese Navy Day, a national show of maritime strength, and the Americans have just walked onto center stage, uninvited. The pilots spring into action before the alarm has finished sounding. Their flight suits are already zipped, their boots laced, the muscle memory of years of training taking over. Every second matters. Their twin-engine, high-performance fighters demand precious minutes to reach optimal operating temperature after a cold night. Out on the ramp, ground crews work swiftly, yanking the safety pins from 4 PL-10 infrared homing missiles and 2 PL-15 radar-guided long-range weapons. The smell of jet fuel and tension is thick in the air. Why this particular loadout? It's not for show. Each jet is loaded exclusively with air-to-air munitions, not the anti-ship missiles that could pose an immediate danger to the Lawrence. But that's the point. The message is in how close they can get, not in what they're armed with. If these fighters were equipped with YJ-83 anti-ship missiles, the destroyer would already be in serious jeopardy. Today, proximity is power. Inside the Lawrence's Combat Information Center, sailors monitor a barrage of data on glowing consoles. The ship's powerful spy radar scans the skies and seas, tracking the day's air traffic. U.S. Navy jets on patrol, a commercial airliner lifting off from Taipei, and dozens of small fishing boats drifting across the strait, oblivious to the history swirling around them. Every pixel of information is processed and fused by the ship's Aegis combat system, which crafts a seamless, godlike view of everything happening within 250 miles. A digital shield against confusion and surprise. Tension crackles through the CIC as officers realize that in about 7 minutes, 2 new blips will appear on the radar, racing toward them at supersonic speed. The geometry of the Taiwan Strait, narrowing to only 130 kilometers at its pinch point, leaves little room for maneuver. The Lawrence is threading this needle with deliberate precision, navigating the razor's edge between international freedom of navigation and the territorial claims of a rising power. The rules of engagement are crystal clear. Weapons are loaded, but may only be fired in response to direct hostility. By 6:52 a.m., the Chinese J-16s are airborne, their afterburners howling as they climb through 10,000 feet. Inside the cockpits, each weapons system officer races through abbreviated pre-combat checklists: hydraulic pressure, navigation, arming sequence, all green. The Type 1475 active electronically scanned array radar powers up in seconds, its 1,760 transmit-receive modules locking in with a precision that would make older Cold War pilots envious. This is what makes the Type 1475 such a dangerous adversary. It can concentrate its emission like a scalpel, tracking a single ship while barely betraying its presence to others. American aviators call it the Ghost, an enemy you don't see until the threat is real. On the Lawrence, the first hints of its presence are just seconds away. Aboard the Lawrence, the SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite hums quietly, sampling the electromagnetic chaos around them. Fishing boat radar, commercial air traffic, cell phone towers, it catalogs everything, looking for anomalies. Suddenly, the system flags 2 airborne sources operating in the X-band, with a pulse signature that screams military fighter. The data is instantly fingerprinted and saved, every byte a potential clue for intelligence analysts. At 7:11 a.m., the tempo shifts. The lead J-16, now 20,000 feet, rolls inverted. Through his helmet-mounted display, he sees empty ocean, a blank space where American radar says the Lawrence should be. But the destroyer glows like a beacon on his electronic sensors. He pulls the nose down, swapping altitude for blistering speed. Leveling off at just 500 feet above the waves, he lines up his attack run, a move as risky as it is provocative. What unfolds is a ballet of aggression. The J-16's mission computer runs continuous intercept calculations, updating 10 times every second. In real conflict, his PL-15s could strike from over 120 miles away, beyond the Lawrence's reach. But the objective today is more psychological, closing to point-blank range, making it clear they could deliver a fatal blow, but choosing not to. Yet, the maneuver is physically punishing. At that low altitude, the air is thick and unforgiving. The J-16 screams along at 450 knots, its Saturn engines devouring 400 pounds of fuel every minute. The margin for error is razor thin. One misstep and the jet would plummet into the sea. His targeting pod, a WMD-7 electro-optical sensor, latches onto the Lawrence's silhouette. Image stabilization is so advanced that, despite the turbulence and speed, he can read the hull numbers, see sailors on deck, and identify weapon mounts. Distance, closure rate, and time to minimum separation are all displayed in his helmet, a live feed of tactical dominance. Meanwhile, the Lawrence's defensive suite is at full alert. The spy radar tracks the hostile jet, while the Aegis fire control system prepares firing solutions for RIM-162 ESSMs housed in the vertical launch cells. The system knows exactly which cell to unlock, which missile to prime, which trajectory guarantees interception. Yet, for now, the weapons remain dormant. The Chinese pilot is no rookie. He has pored over every available document on U.S. Navy doctrine, memorizing engagement ranges and defensive layers. At 3 miles, he is inside the minimum range for the Lawrence's SM-2 missiles. At 1 mile, only the CRAM can possibly intercept. It's a nerve-wracking game of brinkmanship played at nearly Mach 1. Meanwhile, the J-16's wingman mirrors the formation 5 miles to the east, creating a bracket. If the destroyer's sensors focus on one aircraft, the other remains a threat, an old Cold War tactic brought into the digital age. The message to the Americans is unmistakable. You live today because we let you. The wingman's radar, in maritime search mode, detects the Lawrence from 45 miles away, a steel rectangle slicing through the sea at 18 knots. His weapons computer calculates attack options, but today, the real objective is intimidation, not combat. Had these jets been armed with YJ-83 anti-ship missiles, they would need to get within 20 to 30 miles for a precision shot, giving the U.S. crew less than 10 seconds to react to a low-flying, sea-skimming threat. Today, though, the show of force is the weapon. Ground control on the Chinese side, using coastal radar feeds, vectors the fighters for optimal video and data collection. The ground controller, fluent in American rules of engagement, knows that a head-on approach is less likely to trigger a response, but a stern attack provides the best intelligence. In the Lawrence's Combat Information Center, new threat indicators flood the screens. The J-16's radar mode shifts from wide search to focused track while scan, bathing the destroyer in concentrated energy pulses every 2 seconds. The KG-800 electronic warfare pods on the Chinese fighters begin their warm-up routine, ready to jam American radar frequencies and potentially blind the ship at the most critical instant. At 20 miles, the lead pilot spots a gray speck on the horizon. He shuts off his radar to minimize the Americans' warning time, switching to electro-optical tracking. His targeting pod zooms in, showing the destroyer in stunning detail, despite the morning haze. He counts radar arrays, pinpoints every defensive weapon, and observes the sailors moving about on deck. 5 miles out, the Lawrence's CRAM automatically locks onto the incoming threats. This compact R2-D2-like system is the destroyer's last-ditch shield, a 20mm Gatling that spits out 4,500 rounds a minute. The radar tracks the J-16s with perfect accuracy, but the cannons remain silent, spinning in anticipation. 3 miles astern, the lead J-16 steadies up, perfectly positioned behind the Lawrence's wake. He advances the throttles, afterburners flaring, and the jet explodes past with a howl, skimming just 1,000 feet overhead at 300 feet altitude. The roar and jet wash buffet the ship's superstructure. Sailors steady themselves against railings as the anemometer spikes to 95 knots. On the bridge, faces are grim. This is a dance on the edge. In the operations center, every detail is logged with clinical detachment: time, aircraft type, altitude, separation distance. The Aegis system in the background continuously computes dozens of firing solutions. Today, it's only theory, but the encounter has just begun. By 7:23, a pattern becomes clear. The J-16's alternate attack runs every 2 minutes, sometimes approaching from behind, sometimes from the side, always keeping 300 to 400 feet of altitude. Each maneuver is measured, provocative enough to make international news, but calculated to stay just inside the rules. One pilot slows to 150 knots, landing gear up, flaps partway extended, flying a slow parallel pass at half a mile distance. His targeting pod never loses lock on the bridge. The meaning is unambiguous. We see you, all the time. The PL-15s under the wings are air-to-air weapons, but the demonstration is obvious. If these were anti-ship missiles, the Lawrence would be in grave danger. The PL-10s on the wingtips, guided by the pilot's helmet display, can track anything he looks at, designed for dogfights, but effective here as a warning. The wingman tops it off with a sonic boom at 1,000 feet, the sound rattling the ship but leaving it unscathed. The bridge windows vibrate, coffee mugs jitter, but the sailors keep working. Then, at 7:38 a.m., the stakes rise sharply. The Lawrence's radar picks up a Chinese Type 052D destroyer ahead. The Huff-A, China's premier warship, closing to intercept. At the same moment, 2 fresh J-16s, fully fueled and with new pilots, launch from the mainland, arriving with renewed aggression. The new arrivals fly even lower. One levels out at just 200 feet, blasting past the Lawrence at 500 knots, only 100 feet offset to starboard. The Huff-A's advanced Type 346A radar locks onto the American ship, its YJ-18 missiles dormant but ominous. These can accelerate to Mach 3, giving the Lawrence mere seconds to react. The second new J-16 executes a crossing maneuver just 150 feet over the bow, afterburners painting the sky with orange cones of flame. The roar engulfs the bridge. For a moment, nothing else can be heard. Surrounded in 3 dimensions, jets above, a destroyer in front, submarines likely below, the Lawrence's captain faces a meticulously engineered test. The orders are clear. Pass peacefully, record everything, avoid any escalation. By 7:52, the provocation peaks. One fighter approaches from the front, another from the stern, both at 300 feet altitude. The Huff surges to 30 knots, shrinking the gap with practiced efficiency. It's an intimidation tactic straight from the textbook. Then someone goes too far. The lead J-16 drops to just 120 feet, well below any safety floor, and closes within 200 feet of the Lawrence's port side. At the same moment, the trailing fighter thunders past 400 feet above the starboard beam. The American destroyer is boxed in, Chinese aircraft flouting every agreed safety norm. Both CRAM turrets react instantly, sensors tracking, Vulcan cannons spinning up to firing speed. Now the only thing separating tense routine from open conflict is a single press of the trigger. On the bridge and in the CIC, the tension is physical. The tactical action officer's hand hovers over the inhibit switch. Massive radar returns converge. The air is electric. Every eye is locked on the threat. For 5 eternal seconds, the fate of the Indo-Pacific hangs by a thread. Chinese jets hold their aggressive positions, afterburners burning bright, radar locks unbroken. The Lawrence's defenses are coiled, straining at their electronic leash, ready to unleash a storm. Then suddenly, the moment passes. Both J-16s break off, banking sharply and climbing out of range. The CRAMs stand down. The officers on the Lawrence feel their pulse slow. The Huff alters course, now shadowing the destroyer rather than intercepting. The Lawrence presses on, southbound at 18 knots, her crew processing just how close they came to a global incident.